I had this awful experience with a babysitter, and I'm not a fan of how families operate now, without a parent to be at home and taking care of the kids all the time. I know that's really not good on kids, but my family didn't know that. So my cousin and I, she's 2 years younger than I am, were sent to this, I can just almost remember her last name, but we called her Miss Patty, was her first name, Patricia something. And it was a two-story house with the staircase in the middle of the house. The rest of the rooms were wrapped around the staircase, and there was a turn in the staircase so you could actually get upstairs. And I have a lot of memories about that place and how much I hated going over there. I remember being really nervous the first time I went there because it was the first time I was around other kids my age, and I didn't have my parents there with me, which was really odd, being left in the care of somebody that you've never met before when you're 4 years old. And your parents are okay with just leaving you. I remember the first 2 days that happened, I was like really upset and didn't trust anybody, and wanted my parents to come back, and was probably not that easy to handle. But I've had a lot of experiences with people named Logan in my life. I know 4 people named Logan right now that I interact with on a regular basis. But the first Logan I ever met was at this place, and he was my age, and he was more of a typical 4-year-old boy than I was by a long shot. I never got into trouble. I never caused my parents much grief. I didn't break and vandalize things and get myself hurt and get into things I wasn't supposed to get into. But this kid was just chaos. He was ahead of his time when it came to being a rascal and getting into things he was not supposed to. And I was not okay with that. Like, that was not flying in my book. I knew he was up to no good. But he was the only person there I could make friends with. And I didn't know all that at first anyway. I just thought he was a cool new kid that I could hang out with, And I don't remember much about him except for he always took things way too far. Like, the way I wanted to play was pretty tame compared to the way Logan wanted to play. And I remember specifically this one time, which is more emblematic of all the other times, was my cousin was coming down this hallway towards where we were hanging out, and I was like, hey, she doesn't know we're here. Let's hide behind the corner and we'll ambush her. And my idea of ambush was jump out, wave your arms in the air, scream, and she's going to jump and go, whoa. And then you're going to calm down and be like, hey, you want to go do something else? And Logan's idea of scare her was physically assault her. And I jumped around the corner and, my cousin, And then Logan jumps around the corner screaming and pushes her down and tackles her. And she's like screaming, just high-pitched and kicking at him and stuff. And Miss Patty came running around the corner and like, what are you doing? Get off of her, And I was just shocked. I was like, how could you do this, Logan? You've betrayed me and like hurt my cousin, and I don't like you. And that was the least of my problems, because it looked like we were both responsible. And Logan, he fessed up pretty quick. He was just sad that he'd got caught, was the deal. And he said, it wasn't my idea, it was his idea. And yeah, don't trust kids named Logan. If I've learned anything in my life, man, just people named Logan, you gotta stay away from. That was probably also not the first time I've ever had cereal, like breakfast cereal. But it's the first time I remember having cereal, and it was a bowl of Fruit Loops. And I was like, wow, this stuff is great. I want another bowl. I want another bowl. I want another bowl. And we were sitting there at the dining table. All the other kids had finished breakfast, but I was sitting there with Miss Patty. And it was disturbing to me how loud it was to crunch on those things in my teeth. And I, throughout breakfast, hardly hadn't eaten anything, and was the last one at the table because I was trying not to bother the other kids. I would chew just slowly and like take long pauses between me chewing so that I wasn't ruining their breakfast with how loud I was being. And everyone else had went away, and I remember asking Miss Patty and saying, can you hear that? And then continued to chew, and she went, hear what? Can you not hear me chewing? Because in my head, all this hard, dry cereal was just loud, just teeth crunching on this cereal. And I couldn't stand how loud it was. She went, no, I can't hear that. I went, you can't hear when I'm chewing on this stuff, even as loud as it is. She went, no, I can't hear that. And I couldn't get the idea that it was just in my head. It was just the sound going through my bones, And I felt like such an idiot. But that is pretty neat, how loud things are in your mouth. Tooth Tunes. I don't know if anybody remembers those toothbrushes. They kind of capitalized on that idea. That was also the first place I ever saw a swing set, and man, I was hooked on that. She had one in her backyard, but it wasn't for us. It was for the big kids, the kids that were in, I don't know, 6 to 10. And she let me on it one time because my cousin and I were the last two left there, and there were no other kids. And man, the freedom of like that movement and hearing the wind rush by you and that good feeling you get in your stomach going back and forth. I was addicted to that. Like, I cannot explain how much I just needed that, And and I wanted to be on it so bad, and I was never the same after that. I have not been the same after that. I still have an obsession with swing sets and love them. But every time I'd go back there, I'd be like, "Can I please go out there? I'll do anything you want. Just let me on the swing set, please." I know that was the first place I ever had chewing gum. She had gumballs, or like a gumball machine, and they weren't the little kid kind of gumballs that you get in like the toy gumball machines. They were the full size. You got to pay a quarter for gumballs. And the first gum I ever chewed, you have to learn how to chew gum the right way, or else it makes you miserable. And she gave me this big purple one, and I put it in. Actually, at first, I didn't like it. I thought, this is horrible. Why would anyone chew on this for a long time? Because it was still hard. But, it softened up. I was like, man, the flavor, the sugar. This is the greatest thing ever. And I chewed on that thing, man, until I got a headache, and there was no saliva left in my mouth anymore, and my jaw was sore, and I was over it. The roof of my mouth was tingling. I chewed on that thing for like 5 hours. It was gross thinking about it. And I was sick of it, but I just couldn't get it out of my mouth. I remember laying behind her recliner and just laying down and trying to chew on that thing, waiting for my parents to come pick me up. I also remember Logan and I would play something action something. Like we were being crazy Rambo Terminator or something. And we were yelling, this day we were yelling, take cover. We were just yelling, take cover everywhere we went. I had no idea what it meant to take cover. And I don't even think I knew it. I think I learned it from him. But he had this little like Mega Bloks stone thing. Maybe it'd fit in your palm, Really thin plastic, wouldn't hurt anything if you threw it real hard. Miss Patty was in there on the couch. Do you guys even know what take cover means? And neither of us did. But it actually stumped me, and I was like thinking. And Logan said, yeah, it's when you yell, take cover! And he threw that thing up in the air. And I didn't want it to come down on my head, so I did what he did. I hit the dirt and put my hands over my head. And she got so mad at that. She was so angry that he had thrown something in the house. I think she whipped him. And then it was very close to the time, one of the first times I was over there, where I needed to use the bathroom, and I had to do a number 2, And I was trying to get her attention. She was messing around with these toddlers and was not getting anywhere with them. She was having a bad day, like frazzled hair, drool coming out one side of her mouth. She was, just doing everything in a rush and just slapping things down and slamming doors. And she was just, I want you crazy kids, leave me be, in that kind of mood. I was like, hey, lady, I need to poop. Okay, just 1 minute. I'll get you in a minute. She's like trying to change a diaper or whatever. And I waited as long as I cared to that time. And I was like, hey, I really need to go to the bathroom. Like, you got to help me. She's like, just wait. I'm almost done here. I got to do whatever I'm doing. She's washing dishes or whatever. I'll be there in a minute. And I remember standing next to that bathroom door forever. And I waited way longer than I needed to. And I was like, listen, I got to go back to her, but I don't want her to be mad at me. So I went back to her. Third time, was like, listen, I gotta poop. Like, I've waited as long as I can. It's coming out whether or not you help me. Fine! I don't remember what she was doing, but she threw it down, grabbed me on my arm, and, like, hauled me down that hallway. I bet I took 2 steps and, 30 feet. And she would get in the bathroom, and she pulls my pants down and lifts me up and just throws me into the toilet. Like she didn't WWE me like over her head or anything, but she picked me up and threw me in the toilet. And she didn't put the seat down or anything. I landed in that toilet water, like my butt hit the porcelain at the bottom of the bowl. I've got this cold, probably nasty water, like all over my belly and my legs and everything. just my legs and arm and head are stuck out of the bowl, when the bullies throw like the class nerd in the toilet. I probably looked like that. And by the time I had come to my senses, she had already stormed off. I don't really think I cried about that or got too upset about that. I was too scared to like draw her attention again because of how mean she was being. But I did not need to poop at that time. It had been scared out of me. Not the poop, but the need to poop. I wasn't even thinking about pooping. I didn't know how to clean myself up. I remember getting out of the toilet and being wet and having like water in my jeans and stuff and on my shirt. Well, yeah, the back of my shirt was soaked. I don't remember what happened after that, but that was really mean. Don't do that kind of stuff to kids. That's nasty.